Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host, coming to you from the lovely landscape grounds of the global corporate headquarters of Prime Incorporated here in Springfield, Missouri. So I got a couple of problems that I'll tell you about in a minute. But just kind of a Missouri thing, kind of a Kansas City thing. Maybe I guess it is history, actually. So it's history that was made today. So the coach of your Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, won his 100th game as the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the reason that that's noteworthy is that he won 140 games as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, who incidentally the Kansas City Chiefs beat today for his 100th victory as a Kansas City Chief coach, or the head coach. The interesting thing is that he's the only coach in NFL history to ever win 100 games with two franchises. Oh, somebody's here to pick up my trailer, I think. Hold on. So I got this trailer on my back that I need to drop over at Kraft Foods here in Springfield, but they have like some serious important things they got to do to it before I take it over there. So hopefully I don't run out of my 14-hour clock before they get it fixed, but I'm taking it over to Bay 3 right now. Okay, back with you from the trailer shop here at the global corporate headquarters of Prime. So, so that was my problem. I got a trailer that like desperately needs work, even though I need to drop it a few miles away. So I'm gonna let them work on that, and they were cool. They just let me pull up here on the apron in front of the door, so all I need to do is back right in when they're done with it, and off I go. So Andy Reid, historic day. And just on a personal note, I used to go to church with Andy Reid when we both lived in Wisconsin. My wife and I were first married. This is back in like 1992, and Andy was the tight ends coach on Mike Holmgren's staff for the Green Bay Packers. And it's kind of fun. I'll tell you, quick football, like this is how knowledgeable this guy's good at what he does, right? Obviously, right? 240 wins as an NFL coach, but so I paid attention to the Packers because I lived in Cheesehead land, and a lot of people I knew were Packers fans, and so there was a quarterback in Green Bay named Don Majkowski, and Majkowski, they called him the Magic Man. He wasn't bad. He was a pretty decent quarterback, but they had gotten Favre from the Atlanta Falcons, and the word on the street in Green Bay, because Green Bay is a very small town. It's by far the smallest market in the NFL. I used to joke that if you piss in a bush at night in Green Bay, somebody will know about it, right? It's just a small town. And the word on the street was Favre liked to party pretty hard, and whether or not that was true, I don't know. But I said to Andy, I said, so, is this, but by then, it was kind of like Favre was going to take over for Majkowski. Majkowski maybe had an injury. I can't remember, maybe towards the end of his career or whatever. So I said to Andy, I said, is this Favre guy any good? Is he going to work out? I seriously said that to Andy Reid. And we were just sitting there in church and waiting for part of our meetings to start or whatever, and he's like, yeah, he's gonna be really good. So either Andy was just guessing, or he knows what he's doing, but anyway, a super nice guy, and I have friends who've talked to him in the years since, like when he was coaching in Philadelphia. Nothing's changed. He's had a lot of some personal tragedies and stuff, but you see what his players say about him. That man is loved, and there's a reason for it. He's just a good guy. So props to him. congratulations. And, yeah. So I was looking at this, I'm always reading the press, the industry press, and there was last week, I guess, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, the Truckload Carrier Association, the TCA, had its annual meeting in, where else? Vegas. And there were a lot of things that were going on, but one of the things they were talking about was freight rates for 2022. And a few of the industry leaders, people that are in charge of big trucking companies, truckload carriers, said they would be disappointed if rates only went up by 5%. They said they'd take it, but they'd be disappointed. So I think they think that things are going to go up even higher. Well, for a person like me, that's a good thing. But here's why they're saying they think rates are going up. First of all, you all know how the global supply chain, right? There's just a ton of pressure on the supply chain. Railroads are overwhelmed. Ports are overwhelmed on both sides of the Pacific and probably on both sides of the Atlantic. Port of Rotterdam is a big deal, but really it's the Asian ports that matter the most for exports, imports coming into this country. Ports on the West Coast are bottled up. I'm sure it's the same in bigger East Coast ports like Charleston and Baltimore, wherever, Norfolk. Jacksonville, I think, has a big intermodal. They have a big intermodal terminal. But what's also, so that's the pressure that's on the industry as a whole. But one of the pressures on the trucking industry is having qualified drivers. And there are apparently about 80,000 people that have CDLs that are valid, that are caught up in the drug clearinghouse, the FMCSA drug clearinghouse. And those people are kind of in purgatory. They can get out of that situation, but they have to do certain things. But if they're flagged by the clearinghouse, they can't have a driving job. No one can hire them by law. But the other thing that the guy, and I can't remember his name, but he runs Werner Transportation, said was the vaccine mandate is going to hurt driver retention. And his justification for that was that, drivers are really independent. They like their independence. And I read that and I kind of took it on board. I'm like, okay, drivers are independent, meaning maybe they don't want to get vaccinated. Maybe if a company has a mandate, they'll just quit and maybe try to go to another company, but then there's going to be a limited universe of companies they can go to. And where they go is also going to be based on the assumption that those companies that don't fall under the mandate would still not mandate vaccines. Like there might be a company with 55 trucks or 55 employees, but they technically wouldn't have to mandate under the proposed law. But what if the owner's wife and daughter are immunocompromised? Maybe that owner thinks vaccines are a must. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a scenario. But supposing for a moment that there are no companies that are like that, and everybody under 100 employees is going to ignore the mandate. They're not going to make anybody get vaccinated. What's still gonna happen though is that you have to read, if you're a driver, if you're an employee, you have to read the tea leaves. And I want you to take a look at this poster that I just saw in one of the shops here in Springfield. Now, that poster tells me that it's pretty dang important to Prime Inc. that its mechanics, because this is a poster addressed to the shop personnel, that its mechanics get vaccinated. Now there's a giveaway of this ATV, and it turns out that there was only one of them given away. So a lot of people didn't take the incentive to get vaccinated. But here's what I've learned about companies that do incentives. Several years ago, like back in 2008, there were companies, when the market started to crash, real estate started going south in a big way, a lot of companies said, hey, Mr. or Miss Employee, we'll buy you out if you'll leave right now. And they conducted buyouts, right? And one place I know for certain that did this was Fannie Mae. And Fannie Mae had lots of highly compensated employees, and they said, hey, we'll give you 6 months worth of salary, but you need to leave in the next 30 days or whatever. And a lot of people said, oh, well, they're buying people out, that'll clear the decks, that'll make enough space for everybody else. But here's what happened. After things just continued to get worse and worse, and the federal government had to bail out like Fannie and Freddie, Fannie then still, even after the buyouts, just laid people off with no buyout. And those people were really pissed. So here's my observation about corporate America. When corporate America starts giving incentives for employees to do something, right? They're hoping that they'll get enough employees to take that incentive. But if they don't, they're going to still force the issue because it's not going to quit being important to them. And the twist here is it's not just discretionary, right? It's going to be mandatory if this mandate goes into place across the board. However, I look at it like an opportunity, and here's why. If the guy that runs Werner is right, and lots of drivers will just quit rather than get vaccinated, that's just going to drive up freight rates even higher. And that's going to help my business. And anybody that's in trucking, that's still in trucking, is going to benefit. So my thinking is the vaccine mandate is going to put money in my pocket. And sometimes the government has ideas that help me, and this might be one of them. But I'm not opining on the efficacy of vaccines. I'm not telling anybody they ought to get one. I'm just sharing with you what I know about this industry. And I'm also sharing with you what I know about corporate America, and what I've seen over the years. And in my previous life, I knew a lot of people who knew a lot of people. I knew people that, I used to say to my kids used to always joke that Dad has a guy for that. Just whatever it is, I got a guy for it. I got somebody that can handle that problem. And what I used to say is, I don't know everybody, but I know everybody who knows everybody. And I've watched these things over the years. I went through, I practiced law during 2 recessions. I have seen how corporations work, both big and small. And so if your company has already said, hey, to their employees, now keep in mind I'm an independent contractor. I work for an independent contractor. But if your company has already given incentives to vaccinate and you ignored it because you were like, you got your rights, you got your freedom, keep in mind that they were trying to get out in front of this. And it may be that you just get a notice from your boss that says, hey, within the next 7 days, please provide proof that you've been vaccinated. And please don't do this. Please, if that happens, just be an adult about it and say, I'm not getting vaccinated, I'm resigning. That's okay. That's your prerogative. You have those rights. But please don't do this. Don't go and get a fraudulent vaccination certificate. Because if you do, first of all, once your company finds out, they're going to fire you for lying about it. But you also may be subject to criminal sanction for defrauding the government, in that those results are reported through your company on vaccination compliance. They would be reported to OSHA or Department of Labor, or maybe, I don't know, Health and Human Services. I don't even know. But there have already been people that have been arrested for falsifying this stuff. So don't do that. It's okay if you don't want the vaccine, but don't end up with a criminal record over it. Just say, not for me. I'm moving on to a smaller company, or a company, I'm moving on to something else. But don't end up with a criminal record over this. It's not worth it. So anyway, I hope this was useful information. I stand by everything I say. And by the way, YouTube apparently, and this is not my rules, this is YouTube's rules, apparently YouTube is cracking down on anybody that promulgates or disseminates bogus information about COVID or about vaccines or any of that stuff. People sometimes comment on, like the thing I did where I talked about the trainees. I've had people say stuff in the comments about stuff that's just bullshit. Let's be honest, right? It's just inconsistent, and they'll be like, oh, there's research that shows this, but they don't provide a site. I've read the ADA's, or excuse me, the CDC's website. I've read state health department websites from various different states. I know what is out there, and then there's a lot of misinformation. So I'm not taking a position. I've never blocked anybody who comments on my page, and I probably won't. But if somebody says something that's just bull crap, you're going to get called out on it. And I don't know, and by the way, I'm not going to have YouTube shut my channel down because some chucklehead wants to try to disseminate bad information through the comment section on my channel. So if I get any notices from YouTube or anything like that, I will take all those comments down. I will block you. So we can have a discussion about, opinions, but if somebody starts saying something as a fact, then and it's wrong, you may find yourself blocked, and you'll have to try to get in the door on somebody else's channel. So please don't do that. I don't want to have to block anybody, and I'm certain, but I'm not going to have YouTube sanction me because I allowed it. So if they say anything, then all bets are off. So be safe. I'm supposed to get my trainee's supposed to meet me here in Springfield tomorrow, and yeah, they're vaccinated. And we'll get the show on the road. I actually got to book it back to the East Coast because I got a dental appointment on Thursday, but that'll be just a one-day stop, and then we'll really be rolling after that. So stay safe. Talk to you soon. Bye.